She said it like a challenge, not loud, not teasing, but low enough that I almost thought I imagined it. "Go ahead," she murmured. "Let's see if you can handle me." The room wasn't dark, just quiet. The kind of quiet that hums after laughter fades. We were standing too close, not because we had to, but because neither of us stepped back. Her name was Mara. She was in her mid-40s, though the number felt irrelevant. She carried herself like someone who had learned how to command silence without raising her voice. Every gesture, the way she tucked her hair, the pause before she spoke, made it hard to remember what I was supposed to say. I was 26, maybe too sure of what I thought I wanted. Maybe not sure at all. She had invited me in to help with something small, a box too heavy for one person, a shelf half built. That's how it started. The excuse was thin, but it held long enough for me to step inside her living room. The air smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. The window was open, letting in a slow breeze that kept brushing the curtain against my arm. She moved past me, close enough that the scent of her skin, something like citrus and sleep, made me forget what we were talking about. "You're quiet today," she said. "I'm trying not to say something stupid." She smiled at that, not with her mouth, but with her eyes, as if she'd heard that kind of honesty before and didn't quite trust it. I tried to focus on the shelf, on the small screwdriver in my hand. But she kept standing near the corner of my vision, her fingers grazing the edge of the table, her reflection faint in the glass. Every time I looked up, she was already watching me. "You take things seriously," she said after a pause. "I try to." "That can be dangerous," she replied, soft but deliberate. "People like you mean what they say." There was no reason for my heartbeat to pick up, but it did. I laughed quietly, mostly to myself. "Is that a bad thing?" Her eyes held mine. "Not always." Something in the air shifted. She was standing close enough now that I could feel her warmth on my arm. The conversation drifted off, not ended, just lost somewhere between us. She reached to adjust a book on the shelf, and her hand brushed mine. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't bold, either. It was slow, intentional, the kind of touch that tests what's allowed. Her fingers lingered. Then, lightly, she withdrew. I could have said something, anything to break the tension, but all I managed was, "You don't make this easy." "I'm not supposed to," she said, almost smiling. "Besides, you wanted a challenge." Her tone carried something else under it, curiosity, maybe, or warning. It was impossible to tell. She turned away, pretending to check her phone, though her thumb never moved. The silence stretched. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floorboard when she shifted her weight. Then, from somewhere deeper in the house, a door opened. Mara's eyes flicked toward the sound, quick, unreadable, and when she looked back at me, there was something different in her face. Half a second passed before another voice, soft but steady, called out, "Did I miss something?" Mara's lips parted, not in surprise, but in something closer to anticipation. And before I could answer, she leaned in just enough to whisper, almost like a secret meant to stay between us. "She said she could handle you." Her eyes didn't move. "Now I want to see if that's true." The air felt heavier, and the other set of footsteps was already getting closer. The footsteps faded before reaching the room, just the sound of a door closing somewhere down the hall. Mara exhaled quietly, the tension slipping from her shoulders, but not from the air between us. "Neighbor," she said too quickly. "She checks in sometimes." Her voice was calm, but her fingers still toyed with the hem of her sleeve. It was the first time I'd seen her uncertain. I nodded, though I wasn't sure what to say. The shelf stood half-assembled beside us, the screwdriver resting on the floor. I knelt to pick it up, but my thoughts had already drifted somewhere else, to the way she'd whispered those words, and the look in her eyes before the interruption. I'd known Mara for a few months. She lived 2 streets over, worked remotely, and volunteered on weekends at a local gallery. We met by accident. A spill of coffee, a shared apology, a conversation that lasted longer than either of us expected. She was older, yes, but that wasn't the part that complicated things. It was how easily she seemed to see through me. "Don't overthink it," she said now, as if reading my mind. "I wasn't," I lied. Her mouth curved. "You always do. It's written all over your face." She stepped closer, adjusting a frame on the wall beside me. Her hand brushed my shoulder, light, almost casual, but I felt it like static under my skin. She didn't move away right away. Her breath lingered near my ear when she spoke again. "You remind me of someone," she said quietly. I turned my head slightly. "Someone good or bad?" Her pause lasted a beat too long. "Someone I hurt," she said finally. "Or maybe someone who hurt me. I still can't tell." That honesty caught me off guard. Not just what she said, but how softly she said it, as if afraid of hearing herself. "You don't seem like someone who lets people close enough for that," I said. She smiled without looking at me. "That's the problem." "I do. Just not for long." There was no bitterness in her tone, just a kind of tired warmth. It made me want to ask more, but I didn't. Instead, I kept working in silence, aware of every time she moved, every shadow she cast across the light. At one point, I reached for the same screw she did. Our fingers met, hers cool, mine shaking slightly. She didn't pull back this time. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said softly. "How am I looking? Like you've already decided something I'm still trying to avoid." I almost said her name, but it caught in my throat. She looked at me then, really looked, and for a second, all the noise in my head went quiet. The shelf stood finished between us, an excuse turned into a boundary neither of us crossed. Still, when I gathered my tools to leave, she followed me to the door. Her hand brushed my arm, a quick, grounding touch, then lingered just a second too long. "Next time," she said, voice low, "don't come over to fix something." I met her eyes. "Then what should I come for?" She didn't answer, just smiled faintly, half turned toward the dim hallway and said, "You'll know when I open the door." The latch clicked softly behind me, but her warmth stayed long after I'd stepped outside. The next time I went to Mara's house, it wasn't planned. She had texted, "If you're not busy, I could use a second opinion." No details, just that. When I arrived, the late afternoon light was sliding through her kitchen blinds, painting the walls in quiet gold. She stood by the counter, sleeves rolled up, a faint smudge of flour on her wrist. "Cooking?" I asked. "Trying to," she said, half smiling. "It's been a while since I cooked for anyone." She said it casually, but the pause after anyone lingered longer than the sentence itself. I leaned against the doorway, watching her knead the dough, slow, deliberate movements, her brow slightly furrowed in focus. There was something disarming about seeing her like that, less composed, more human. "What help?" I asked. "Do you cook?" "Not really." "Then just stand there. You make good silence." I laughed quietly, but she didn't. She was studying me, or maybe the way I watched her. There was a knock on the front door. Both of us froze. Her eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me. "That's probably Liza," she whispered. "She drops by sometimes, unannounced." I stepped back, suddenly aware of how it might look, me standing here, her hands dusted with flour, the air thick with something neither of us had named. "Go," she said under her breath, gesturing toward the hallway. "Just wait there." I slipped into the narrow corridor that led to her study. Through the crack in the door, I could hear voices, muffled, friendly, but too close for comfort. Mara's tone shifted, lighter, practiced. Oh, I was just cleaning up. You know me, can't sit still. I heard the faint sound of footsteps crossing the floor. My heart beat hard enough to feel it in my throat. When the door finally closed again and silence returned, Mara let out a shaky laugh. You can come out, she said softly. When I did, she was standing by the window, arms crossed, pretending to be unbothered. But her breathing hadn't quite steadied yet. That was close, I said. She nodded. Too close. The tension didn't fade. It thickened, filling the small space between us. You don't owe me an apology, I said. I wasn't going to give one, she replied, a flicker of amusement breaking through and then fading. But maybe I should. She turned to face me fully. Her hair had come loose, one strand falling across her cheek. I wanted to brush it away, but I didn't. Mara, I started, but stopped. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth from her skin, the faint scent of flower and her perfume. Her fingers brushed the sleeve of my shirt, tracing the seam like she was memorizing it. This is what I mean, she said quietly. You stand too still. You make it too easy to forget what I shouldn't be thinking. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from restraint. I swallowed hard. Then maybe stop standing so close. She didn't. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Her hand hovered near my chest, my breath catching as her eyes flicked to my mouth, then away again. A phone buzzed on the counter, loud in the silence. We both turned toward it, her name flashing on the screen from Liza. Mara's hand dropped. The moment dissolved, but not completely. She exhaled slowly, eyes still fixed on the buzzing phone. I should answer that, she said, voice thin. You should, I whispered. But neither of us did. The phone stopped ringing. And when she finally looked at me again, her lips parted, not to speak, but to breathe in, like she was about to fall. We didn't kiss. We didn't move. We just stood there, too close, too aware, caught in this small space between wanting and restraint. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one of us would break first. It had been 2 days since that almost kiss. 2 days of restless thoughts and unsent messages. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't planned. I was walking past the gallery where she volunteered, and there she was, standing by the window, arms folded, talking to someone I didn't recognize. He was around her age, laughing easily, leaning too close. She laughed back. Something inside me twisted, not anger exactly, but something that sat too close to it. Before I could think better of it, I went inside. Mara. Her name came out sharper than I meant. She turned, startled, and for a second, something flickered across her face. Guilt? Relief? I couldn't tell. Didn't expect to see you here, she said, tone light, carefully composed. I could say the same. The man beside her gave me a polite nod before excusing himself. Mara watched him leave, her hands tightening around the strap of her bag. Friend? I asked. Someone I used to know, she said. Then, quieter, someone I used to be close with. The words hit harder than they should have. I looked away, but my voice betrayed me. You didn't seem distant, she exhaled, shaking her head. Don't do that. Do what? Make me feel like I owe you an explanation. Her tone wasn't cold. It was defensive, afraid of something she couldn't name. I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking again. Then tell me not to care. Her breath caught. You don't even know what you're getting into. Maybe not, I said, softer now. But I know what it feels like when you look at me and stop pretending. That stopped her. The noise of the street outside faded, leaving only the slow rhythm of our breathing. She reached up, brushing her hair back, a nervous habit, but her hand trembled slightly. I caught it without thinking. Our fingers met, hers cool against my skin. Mara, don't, she whispered, eyes fixed on where our hands touched. Don't say my name like that. Like what? Like you've already decided how this ends. I wanted to pull her closer. To say something real, something that wouldn't scare her off. But before I could, she stepped forward first, closing the gap completely. Her body was inches from mine now. I could feel her breath against my neck, warm and uneven. This isn't fair, she murmured. To who? To either of us. Her voice broke on the last word. I lifted a hand, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move, didn't blink. Her lips parted just slightly, like she was trying to breathe through whatever she was holding back. I can't keep pretending, I said. Her eyes lifted to mine, sharp, searching, impossibly close. Then don't, she whispered. The air between us tightened, everything inside me ready to collapse into that one impossible moment. I leaned in, slow, uncertain, and she didn't move away this time. But before our lips met, the gallery door swung open behind us, the bell chiming too loud, too sudden. We froze. Someone's voice broke the silence. Mara? Are you still here? She stepped back, barely an inch, but it was enough. Her breath trembled as she whispered, You should go. And though I didn't move right away, I knew she was right. Still, when I left, her scent, faint, warm, unforgettable, stayed with me longer than the sound of that door closing. I didn't expect to see her that evening, not after the gallery incident. Yet there she was, leaning against the railing of the apartment balcony, the city lights spilling across her face like something too intimate to ignore. Mara, I said, quietly, careful not to startle her. She turned slowly, a small, ironic smile tugging at her lips. I wasn't sure you'd come. I could not, I admitted. The words felt heavier than I meant. She studied me for a long moment, then exhaled sharply. You need to know something. My stomach sank. There was that tone, the one that always meant something complicated, unavoidable. What is it? Her hands gripped the railing, knuckles white. I wasn't completely honest the other day about that man at the gallery. I froze. My chest tightened. What do you mean? He's not just a friend. He's someone She paused, as if testing the air between us. Someone I was in love with. Recently. Until you showed up again. The words hit like a jolt. My body went still, but inside, everything vibrated, desire, fear, an almost unbearable tension. You liked him? I asked, my voice uneven. Not anymore. I didn't expect you. Not like this. I stepped closer, heart hammering. The air between us was thick, almost tangible. Like this? Her eyes flicked down at my chest and then back up, as if she was struggling to measure the space between wanting and resisting. Yes, she said, voice low. Like this. And it terrifies me. My fingers itched to reach for her. Instead, I just watched, feeling the heat radiating from her, the subtle quiver of her shoulders. She leaned slightly forward, close enough that if I moved just a little, I could close the gap completely. Instead, she took a half step back. A small gesture, but enough to make my pulse spike. Her hair brushed my arm when she moved, accidental or not, I couldn't tell. I shouldn't feel this way, she whispered, almost to herself. It's reckless. Impossible. I don't care, I said low. The words escaped before I could rethink them. Her head tilted, eyes narrowing slightly, not in anger but in something more vulnerable. A test, perhaps, of whether I was serious. You don't understand, she said, voice trembling. This isn't just about us. People would talk. She stopped, swallowing hard. Her hand brushed against mine again, lingering just long enough that I felt her warmth seeping into me. "You shouldn't," she said softly. "But I can't stop." I wanted to reach out, to press closer, to erase the distance she tried to enforce. But I didn't. Instead, I let my gaze linger on her lips, the faint tremble in her jaw, the way her pulse throbbed just beneath the surface. "I don't care about safe," I whispered. Her breath caught. She closed her eyes for a moment, leaning slightly toward me. Then she opened them again, and I could see it, the conflict, the desire, the fear, all tangled together. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," she said. I stepped closer, careful but deliberate. "Then don't," I said. Her fingers brushed mine again, this time almost deliberately, and I knew, without words, that something had shifted irreversibly. A choice loomed between us, one neither of us could avoid. And neither of us wanted to. The apartment was quiet, almost unbearably so. Evening had folded itself around the city, soft lights flickering through the blinds, painting Mara's living room in gold and shadow. We stood near the window, closer than we'd ever allowed, and the space between us felt charged, not just with desire, but with all the hesitation and fear we'd carried for weeks. Her hand hovered near mine, fingers twitching as if testing whether I'd reach for her. I did, slowly, letting my palm brush hers. She didn't pull away. Not yet. "You don't have to," she whispered, voice trembling. "I know," I said. "But I want to." Her breath caught. She leaned just slightly forward, and the warmth from her body pressed against me, subtle but impossible to ignore. I could feel her pulse against my chest, rapid and uneven, matching my own. "I shouldn't," she murmured, almost to herself. This is risky." Doesn't matter," I interrupted, low, almost a whisper. "Doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Not tonight." Her eyes searched mine, darting between doubt and something else. Something raw, almost unbearable. The faintest smile quivered on her lips. "You make it sound simple." I moved a fraction closer, letting my forehead brush hers, the heat from her body mingling with mine. Her fingers finally curled into my sleeve, holding on as if I were an anchor. "Not simple," I said, voice low. "Impossible. But I want it anyway." Her lips parted slightly. The faint scent of her, citrus, warmth, faintly floral, filled my senses. My hands hovered near her face, afraid to be too bold, yet unable to resist. She tilted her head toward my hand. "Then prove it," she whispered, voice trembling but steady in its challenge. I leaned in just enough to feel her breath mingle with mine, the slow, fragile proximity drawing every heartbeat into a symphony of tension. For a long moment, nothing moved except the tiny, electric movements, her fingers brushing mine, her pulse against my chest, the heat that neither of us wanted to release. "I can't promise perfection," I murmured. "Only that I'll try." She placed her hand over mine, stopping the words. "I know," she said. The pause stretched between us, full of everything we hadn't said, every hesitation and every longing, every fear and reckless desire. Then she closed the small distance left between us, leaning into me, just enough for her lips to brush mine, a whisper of contact that wasn't final, but it was enough. I didn't pull back. She didn't either. We stayed like that, suspended in the messy, raw intimacy that neither words nor plans could contain. Her forehead rested against mine, and she exhaled slowly. "I can't pretend anymore," she said. "Neither can I," I admitted, pressing closer, letting her warmth fill the space I hadn't known I was holding for her. And for the first time, in that suspended, trembling moment, we understood each other fully. We weren't perfect. We weren't ready. But we were together, and that was enough. The next morning, the city woke slowly outside Mara's window. Soft sunlight spilled across the room, painting the walls in pale gold. I was still there, sitting beside her on the couch, our hands intertwined in a quiet, unspoken agreement that whatever came next, we would face it together. She leaned against me, her head resting lightly on my shoulder, and I could feel her steadying herself, as if proving to herself she belonged there. I brushed my thumb across the back of her hand, memorizing the warmth and the subtle tremor that lingered from the night before. "I still can't believe she murmured, trailing off, voice barely audible. "You don't have to believe it," I said softly. "Just feel it." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Feels impossible. In every good and reckless way." I tilted my head, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Sometimes impossible is exactly where we need to be." She laughed softly, the sound lingering like sunlight on the skin. "You're infuriatingly right," she admitted, leaning closer so that our shoulders touched fully. The warmth of her presence filled the space around me, grounding me more than any words ever could. For a moment, we simply stayed there, quiet, breathing, listening to the faint hum of the city. The age gap, the whispered warnings of friends and strangers, the uncertainty that had shadowed every step of our attraction, it didn't vanish. But none of it mattered in this room, in this moment, with her pressed softly against me. "I don't want to pretend anymore," she whispered, curling her fingers more tightly around mine. "Then don't," I said. My thumb traced small circles on the back of her hand, my voice low. "Not now, not ever." Her eyes lifted to mine, warm and steady. I saw the vulnerability there, the trust, the courage it had taken to let me in, to let herself in. I leaned in, and we shared a slow, lingering kiss, soft and deliberate, the kind that didn't rush to conclusion but savored the space we had carved out for each other. When we finally pulled back, our foreheads rested together, breaths mingling, hearts synchronized. "This is real," she whispered. "Yes," I agreed. "And messy. And impossible. But real." She laughed again softly, leaning fully against me. I could feel her pulse, her steady heartbeat matching mine, and I knew, no more hesitation, no more silent questions. We belonged here, in this quiet, warm space, together. The morning stretched gently around us, and we stayed there, close, tangled in limbs and words unspoken, wrapped in the rare kind of intimacy that doesn't need perfection to feel whole. Finally, she lifted her head slightly, brushing a finger across my cheek. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" "Not in a million years," I said, smiling. "And I wouldn't change a single step that brought me to this moment." Her hand found mine again, fingers entwining naturally. "Good," she said, "because I plan to stay." And for the first time, I believed it, in the messy, beautiful truth of us. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?